Okay, welcome to episode 4 of Lockdown Blending. I've been playing with my microphone settings a little bit, trying to boost the volume. So please let me know in the comments if I've gone over the top and you currently have blood pouring out of your ears because of my voice. So in the last 3 episodes we were looking at a beer glass and mucking around with that, and I wanted to move on to something different today. So what we're going to do is take 3 PBR materials, and using a mixture of a bunch of nodes, some adaptive displacement, and a bit of luck, we're going to make kind of a cool looking ground plane. Now, as I do mention a lot, I tend to use polygon materials because I work there. But for this, I thought it was important to make sure everyone, in case anyone wanted to try and replicate what I was doing and follow along, that I use freely available materials. So I'm using these ones from Texture Haven. We're going to be making use of dry ground rocks, rock ground 02, and brown mud leaves 01. Okay, so get those downloaded if you're going to be following along, and then just unzip them and dump them in a folder somewhere on your hard drive. But let's start by making the ground plane. So a nice little Shift A and add in a plane. I'm going to scale it up 10 times, and I'm also going to subdivide it by 50, just to give us a little bit of geometry to work with. Because what I want to do, and this is really important when you're working with ground, because I've noticed some people tend to try and build the material on a flat plane, and if you're wondering why it's not looking right, it's because ground's very rarely flat. So yeah, give it a bit of shape. That's what I'm going to do now. So I'm just going to jump over to sculpt mode and turn off symmetry. There we go. Make sure Dino topology is not on. I don't want to create any additional geometry. I just want to shape the geometry that we've already got. Let's up the brush size a bit more, and yeah, I'm just going to bring the strength down a tad and just start to shape out a bit of terrain here. Bit of a hill towards the back. I don't know what sort of physical size we're going for here, but yeah, I just want a bit of shape to it. It's probably got a bit overboard, but yeah, good enough. So cool, jump back to layout. I'm also going to right mouse button and hit shade smooth, and that's our ground plane good to go. I'll even name it. Cool, so let's jump over to our shading tab, and we're going to need a lighting setup. So let's quickly do that. I'm just going to jump over to rendered mode, jump over to world, hit use nodes, find my nodes. I've got the Node Wrangler add-on enabled. I've mentioned it on previous streams, but just in case this is the first one you're watching and you don't know what I'm talking about, go to your user preferences, go to add-ons, and make sure that Node Wrangler is enabled. And that allows you to do various things that I'll be making use of here. One of which being, if I click on this background shader and then hit Control T, it brings in an environment, texture, mapping, and coordinate node, which is handy. So I'm now going to go to my HDR folder and pick out a vaguely interesting looking HDR. Let's try you. Yeah, a bit of shadow to it. Yeah, that'll work. Cool. But I'm going to turn on transparency. I don't want to see the HDR. I just want it to be giving me lighting. And now I'm going to switch these nodes back over to object mode and give ourselves a bit of room, because obviously I'm working on a nice big screen here, but I'm aware you might be watching on something considerably smaller, so I'll try and keep the nodes nice and visible. So let's start off by hitting new and calling this ground. Surprise, surprise. Now I'm going to click on the principled shader, and I'm going to hit, now this is another Node Wrangler option. You have to enable that add-on for this to work, and this is one of my favorite features of it. In fact, if you hit Control and then Shift and then T, you get this principled texture setup window. Yeah, now you can jump to one of the exported I've got to find where I put them now. desktop. Yeah, here we go. Cool. Don't really want that though. That's for my test. Okay, so these are the 3 materials that I mentioned. I've unzipped them and put them in this folder. And we'll start off by bringing in the rock ground. Okay, so I'm going into that folder to see all the textures there. Now what I'm going to do is press A to highlight them all, and then I'm going to hit Principal Texture Setup. And what it will do is take out the most appropriate textures and create a node setup for you. All good to go. It's set the roughness and normal and displacement to non-color. It's put in the normal and the displacement map. It's done it all, which is awesome. And yeah, we see our material there. Now, even though we've got displacement connected, you'll notice there is no displacement, and that's because we haven't sorted that out yet. So let's do that before going any further. We need to change the feature set up here to experimental, and then go to the modifier panel and add in a subsurface, and then turn on adaptive. And then from there, we could change the dicing scale, but I think that'll be okay. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But for now, let's go to the material, go down to settings, and change this to, now you've got 2 choices, displacement only or displacement and bump. If you have it as displacement and bump, anything that's plugged into the displacement channel, where there isn't geometry to manipulate, it will also try and add to the bump map, the existing bump map. It can be kind of awesome sometimes, but I'm going to keep them separated in this example and just use displacement only. So anything plugged into this displacement channel, hello, computer's frozen, never good. Yeah, anything plugged into this displacement channel will only be affecting displacement. It will not affect the normals. They will literally just come from the normal map of the materials. Okay, cool. So we've got a bit of displacement going on. It doesn't look too shabby actually. A few areas look a bit on the ugly side. And it's something you'll always get with displacement, because you've got to remember it's just it only moves in one direction, or 2 I suppose, up and down, but only along one axis. So when you have a very steep incline, it doesn't know where to put the texture, and you get kind of these really sharp transitions and whatnot. But yeah, normally you can hide that through texture, from mixing a different texture in that area, or clever camera placement. It's just one of the downsides of this style, really, and there's not a huge amount we can do about it. But yeah, you can see there's a nice bit of displacement going on. These rocks are looking really nice down here. Yeah, that looks groovy. Okay, so what we're going to need to do here is be organized. So I'm going to get rid of these frames. We don't want these at the moment. And I'm going to take these materials and dump them over here. Now, I might want to affect the displacement strength, yeah? So you'd go down here and you've got the scale and the mid-level within the displacement. However, we're going to have several displacement maps combined by the end of this, and they might need different strengths and mid-level. So we're going to create our own, okay? Which I'm going to do after the displacement. So to do that, grab a math node. Yeah. I'll just turn the preview off for a second, because for some reason it's slowing things down. And I'm going to change that to multiply, duplicate it, and change that to add. Okay. Now what will happen with these? Let's turn that back on. Okay, so the multiply value becomes our strength now. So if I set this to a strength of 3, crazy displacement, or -3, it will be crazy reverse displacement. Yeah? Awesome. So that's our strength. So I'm even going to label it as that. Strength. And then we've got add. Yeah? Now what that is going to do is basically be our mid-level. Now let's say when we're mixing this with another material that this material is too high. Yeah? We can now bring it down using the add. It just moves the whole material up and down in terms of displacement. Yeah? So this will be our mid-level. Cool. Okay, so we've separated out our necessary controls, and the nodes and whatnot. So let's put these in a frame, like so, and we'll call it, what is it, Rock Ground 02. Keeping organized, always important. Groovy. Okay, so at that point I'm going to hit Control and I'm going to hold down my right mouse button and disconnect all those nodes, get rid of that and that, because I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to select the principled shader, hit Control, Shift and then T, and then from there I can bring in the next material, this dry ground rocks one. I'll select everything, hit principled, and yeah, voila! We're back where we were a second ago. Why is my computer freezing? What is going on? This is not filling me with warm fuzzy feelings. No, it's not. Okay, let's delete these frames. And what do I want to do next? Yeah, basically replicate what we've already done. So we don't have to reset up the displacement because that's all being handled. My dog's barking. Right, I think it's quiet now. Sorry about that. The perils of a live broadcast. Oh, give me a second. Bloody animals. Anyway, I completely lost where I am now. Yeah, cool. So we want to basically separate this material like we did before. So I'm going to add in a frame. Grab those nodes. Why does this keep freezing? It's really strange. It's been working fine all day. Anyway, what's this one called? Dry ground rocks. I think that was it actually. So dry ground rocks. Cool. And what we need now is obviously a bunch of mix nodes to mix these things together. Now, typically when I work with this, I actually build up a little node group for PBR mixing. But just to keep things simple today, I'm not going to bother doing that. So we've got 4 channels we're working with in this example. So we need 4 of these mix nodes. Wow, this keeps slowing down. That's really odd. I don't know what is going on there. I don't have anything weird running. I'm not recording. It just keeps freezing. I did update a graphics driver just before streaming, which was probably a stupid idea. Anyway, excuse me. So I'm going to connect up these 4 channels to the top color inputs of our mixers here, and then the inputs from down here into the bottom inputs. This is almost becoming unusable. It's really odd. It just keeps freezing. This is making me sad. Is something using up huge amounts of CPU power that shouldn't be? No? No? No, everything should be fine. I don't know. I'm going to put it down to one of those things. Every time I do pretty much anything, it's just slowing down, just not being responsive at all. Anyway, so we've made our connections, and let's give these a name, just so it makes more sense when coming back to it later. And it's just showing what these are mixing, and then we'll put that in a frame. Now the last node we want to add to this, it's not really a node per se, it's a reroute. Okay, so I'm going to put that in the top left corner and then connect that to all of the factor inputs of these different shaders. And then what we want to do is give this a name. This is our PBR mixer, like so. And I'm going to grab this down here and connect it up to my principal shader here. Now, one of the benefits of this method is no matter how many, because you can, in fact we probably will be adding in a second mixer and another material, but the benefit is we're only using the one principal shader, so it's very efficient. But also at the end we're left with a single color map and a single roughness map and a single normal map, which is good for baking, and yeah, it's a really nice way to work. The downside is it can get a little messy with the node setup, which is why it's so important to try and keep things in place. I've just noticed that displacement should be there, and we need to add these controls in here. Alt P. Oh, stop freezing! You are driving me round the fucking bend. Oh, losing the will to live. Just adding in those strength and displacement controls, or strength and mid-level controls, sorry. And yeah, now we're good. Okay, so let's jump back into rendered mode, which if my computer carries on as is, will probably mean that something's going to explode. Ridiculous. But cool. So now, if I were to, just for the sake of demonstration, drop in a value node to this reroute thing. Come on. Why are you doing this to me? Cool. Okay, so at 0, we've got our original material, and then if I go to 1, we've got our other material. Voila! And then obviously we can plug whatever we want into that. Now, I'm going to be eventually using a painted mask, but just to drive the point home, let's go to noise texture and add in a color ramp. Just connect those up and give ourselves a little bit of, I don't know, definition here. Like that. Maybe make that 8. Oof. Whatever. I'm not going to be getting rid of it anyway. Why am I spending time trying to make it look perfect? Anyway, come on. Cool. So, yeah, as you can see, we're starting to now blend our materials together. And this is where the displacement, strength, and mid-level separation comes in really handy. Because you might bring in a material and it ends up looking like this. Or even worse, like, I don't know, this. And it might well do, yeah, because it's really dependent on the way a particular displacement map has been set up. It might work perfectly for that one material, but doesn't play nicely with others. And this will allow you to adjust the displacement to do what you need it to. Do I need to? Because that's already on 8. That should be fine. I'm gonna see if that helps speed this process up a little bit and stop the freezing. I don't think it will though, because it was misbehaving even when I wasn't in rendered mode. I don't know what's going on. Okay, one thing I do want to do is lower the strength. I think I left that there as an example, and probably there too. So far on this scaling, the strength of 1's actually not too bad. It's pretty nice. Apart from that really weird chunk sticking out there, but hey. Cool. So yeah, so that demonstrates the technique quite nicely, but it's also quite obvious we're just using a noise texture. So let's fix that now and add in a image texture. Note you can also use a vector mask for this. It's just the image texture gives you just a little bit more control, but isn't, or not a vector mask. What was it? Vector colors, vertex colors. That's it. You can use vertex colors for doing what we're doing now, but I'm going to use a texture map instead. A resolution of 1024 would be nice. We'll call it mask 1 and hit OK. Select the mask. Make sure that the object's selected. And then we're going to go to texture paint. Voila! And now we can literally paint in what we want. So I want the muddy material to be up on the hills, whereas we're going to have more of the concrete-y one at the lower parts. So yeah, let's set the strength to 1 and just start painting that in. Like so. Blah de blah. Paint. Don't know what's going on there. There we go. Obviously, probably want to spend a little bit more time than I am, but you get the idea. Then once you've got your basic shape in, grab a smear brush and make it a little bit less, bit less perfect. So just start, make that a bit bigger. Just start smearing that in. Let me just turn off that. That should help things. No, not really. Thanks for thinking about it. Ooh, that's a bit horrible. But you get the idea. Just smearing it to break up the transition, basically. Yeah. Yeah, it's not bad. That should look pretty nice. If I was trying to do a terrain where I could look at it from any angle, I'd probably want to do a little bit of work around the back here, but I'm planning on having the camera excuse me, down here somewhere, so yeah, it's not really necessary. I'm calling that kind of done. Why can't I? I've got my hand in the wrong place. I was wondering why my controls weren't working as normal. It's yeah, man, I was pressing the wrong buttons. Pro move, Bill. Okay, so before we go any further, let's save this image somewhere. I'm going to save it in the same place I got the textures and call it, it's already mask 1 PNG. Save, and then we can jump over to shading, and we've now got our mask, which I can plug into that reroute node of our mixer, and voila! We've now got the mud up the top and the concrete down the bottom. It's blending nicely together. All of the displacement and roughness values are blending nice. It's seamless. It looks it's really effective and really easy to do. Okay, so we want to do one more of these. And this one we will be using a noise texture with, and it's just to help give it a bit of variation, because at the moment it looks very, very obvious that I've used a mask to separate two textures, doesn't it? Yeah, you don't. The real world isn't this kind of obvious and perfect. So let's grab that, because we'll need one of those. And I'm just going to quickly put in another principled shader. And I'm going to have to disconnect that anyway, so I may as well. Disconnect, go, and bring in our muddy leaves. Like so, and then I'm going to deselect those, grab those down here, and now it's just a matter of repetition. If this was a recorded tutorial, I'd probably skip this bit, but it's not, so you're just going to have to suffer. There we go. Why is there 5 on this one? I don't know why it brought in a specular. We don't need that. Cool. And we'll call this chap, what's it called again? Brown mud leaves. Cool. Now, what we want to do with this mixer, obviously, is take the output of the first mixer first, because we don't want to lose everything we've done there. Like so. And I'm actually going to drag this down. I do find it easier sometimes to drag things for the sake of connecting and then move them afterwards. It's part of the joy of using frames, in my opinion. Or no groups, if that's what you want to do with this, which I'd recommend, to be honest. Cool, and now we want to connect this up to our shader. Nope. And do. Cool. So we've now got our second mixer in place. Just to make sure it's working, let's drop in a value of 1, like so, and everything should go leafy. Yeah. Not happy with the scaling on it though, so let's up that to 4 or so. Now we're noticing a bit of tiling going on here, and if that was going to be an issue, I'd probably go down the route of looking into some detiling methods, but we're going to be using a noise texture to sprinkle this in over the main material, so I don't think it's necessary. Noise texture, converter, color ramp, and let's create some noise. I'm going to up this a little bit because this one's going to kind of be all over the place, kind of blend in. We don't want too much bleed though, and we don't want too much of it in general, so let's move this a bit up here. We just want the leaves to kind of creep in here and there, and instantly you can see our problem. Our leaves have a very different displacement mid-level to the other two materials, which is exactly what I was talking about earlier. So yeah, we've got these leaves now which are like going, what? Yeah, they're all over the place. So let's head over to our mid-level and find the perfect mid-level. Let's try minus 0.4, nope. Minus 0.6, nope. Minus 1, not quite. Minus 0.9, getting there. Not too shabby. Yeah. We could even go a bit smarter with this actually. I'm going off book here. I did not have this planned initially, but let's try and get smart with this. So I'm going to take these nodes down here. Excuse me. And I'm also going to get another color ramp because I don't really want this mud. I just really want, not too much of it anyway. I mostly want the leaves. So I'm going to take the base color. I think that would be the best one to use. Maybe the roughness map though. Nope. Maybe displacement? Definitely not. Okay, we'll stick with the color. So if I look at the color map and then bring up this black value. Ooh. It worked pretty much straight away, didn't it? How handy. Just trying to get to the point where there's no mud showing and it's just the leaves, and then pinching this value like that, and then color, in fact convert to math, multiply the noise texture by that, and then we've just got that to feed into our second mix shader, like so. And now we should be mostly just getting the leaves rather than the, yeah, that's more like it. I don't like it that much. I think I want to change the colour of the leaves now I'm looking at them, but let me just also, I don't think that scale was quite right in the first place. Maybe lower that just a smidge. No, it's the noise texture bill. Leave that alone. Yeah. I think you get the idea anyway. Turn down the scaling of that a bit. Like so many things with nodes, it's a bit of trial and error going on. Yeah, it's not looking horrendous. It's not looking amazing either, but not bad. One thing I do want to do now, I'm looking at it. Obviously, we want to dump this in a frame. I'm not even going to give it a name because we know what it does, don't we? It's our mask mixy thingy, my job. but the colour of these leaves are a bit of an eyesore compared to the other materials. So I'm going to drop in a hue and saturation node into there. And let's play around. So I'm going to change the value to 0.5 because they're too bright. So I'm going to change the saturation to about 0.65. Yes, about right. Okay, now I did mention that I'd cover this in a bit more detail, so that's what I'm going to do now and talk about the dicing scale. So, the way a dicing scale works is, and I think I'm explaining this correctly, is this is an adaptive displacement. So, first to make more sense, if I add in a camera, and we'll just set up where we want our camera to go. Oi, behave. There we go. Something like, I don't know, about that. Okay, so that's going to be our amazing finished picture. Whee! Now, the way adaptive displacement works is, if I look at the wireframe mode for this, or just, in fact, if I just tab into edit mode, get lost, you stupid menu. Okay, so this is the amount of vertices that we've got to work with, but you can clearly see from the displacement that we'll be using that there's more geometry than that. It was actually forming the rocks and stuff. Now the way it's doing that is it's taking the distance from the camera, okay, and progressively subdividing the mesh more the closer it gets to the camera, yeah? Now, with a dicing scale of 1, it'll be approximately 1 quad, yeah, one face per pixel. So up close, that's going to be an insane amount of detail, and in the distance, it's going to still be relatively high. But yeah, that's how it works. So the higher the dicing scale, the less detail and the less geometry and the less memory used, and probably faster render times. So it's a bit of a balance. But if you go too high with the dicing scale, you'll lose all that detail. Now, they're not the only controls. In viewport mode, you're getting a lot less detail than you would be in a final render. Now, if I go over to the subdivision tab of our main render settings, you'll see we have the dicing rate at render time, 1 px, so 1 pixel. But the preview is 12 pixels. So they're basically like multipliers for this value. Yeah? Or I suppose this is a multiplier for them, but whatever way you want to look at it. So at render time, we're going to get a dicing scale of 1 pixel, but in this viewport with our current settings, it's 12 pixels, which is a lot less detailed. So in theory, when we hit render in a moment, we'll see a considerably higher amount of detail. So let's test that theory. I've not even saved it yet. I should probably do that. Hasn't even got a folder, poor thing. We'll just call it, yeah, whatever. And let me just go over to the render and get this rendering. Wait, thanks. So you see it's up here, it says tessellating plane. That's doing that crazy subdivision. If it gets stuck on that and stays there for ages and ages and ages, you know you've balls your scene up by making that too high. Now, bear in mind I've got one displacement and a couple of materials, and this render is taking over 4.6 or 4.5 gig, yeah, which is huge. It's a huge. Oh, it's got it even more now, up to 5.4 gig peak. So yeah, huge amount of memory, which means that basically I've gone too high with the dicing rate. My machine can hack it, thankfully. More barking dogs and kid sounds, fantastic. Okay, we're starting to get some render results coming through now, and yeah, we're seeing some issues. What is going on there? It's the displacement on the grass. Yeah, the mid-level for that obviously isn't quite right. But anyway, as you can see, we're getting a lot more detail from the maps. and it's rendering out pretty nicely. Really not liking this this leaf stuff though. I think it's that, you know, that I didn't just use the noise texture to blend in the grass, and it's separating between the two displacement maps so quickly that it's causing this jagged effect. So it looked like a good idea on paper, and it was working okay in the preview, but it's not going to work for us on our final render. So let's get rid of that completely and just stick with our initial plan of just using the noise texture. That should come out a lot nicer, but it does mean we're going to have to do a bit more balancing, because that still doesn't look quite right to me. The concrete should be higher. So what I'll do, first I'm going to tighten up this so it's not bleeding into each other. It's like boom, that's all you get in, like so. Yeah, that's better. And now this is our concrete-y looking one. I'm going to up that just by, I don't know, about 0.2. Oh no, definitely not 0.2. Maybe 0.05, 0.01. Just want there to be a slight obvious sort of height to the concrete here over the mud. It's not quite what I'm seeing. Yep, not too bad. I still reckon it's hard to tell. I think it's because of the low dicing rate. It's hard to tell exactly what's going on. So let me just up this a bit. No. Not even slightly. Yeah, that's hideous. Okay. Oh, I don't know. Let's try that. Okay, while that's rendering, I'm going to pause the microphone for just a second. Streaming is not going very smoothly today. Got dog noises in the background, kid noises in the background, my computer's not behaving. Not ideal. And hi Peter. I'm waving. How's it going? In fact, looking, not a lot of viewers today. I'm starting to think either this subject is not grabbing people's attention, or Monday isn't the right day to be doing a stream. Who knows? Yeah. Honestly, I also think part of the issue here is the materials I've chosen don't really go that well together. As I said, I typically use the polygon materials, which I know really, really well. And yeah. So even at 4K, just some of the details in these rocks, it's definitely lacking. Could be I use the typical materials I use have a 16-bit displacement map. Maybe that makes a bit of difference. I don't know. But these just look a little flat in places. But yeah, even though the end result isn't particularly amazing, the technique is very, very sound. I've done some fantastic looking material blends using this. In fact, I'll demonstrate some of them. I'm sure I've got some saved to ArtStation. Oh, maybe not. Yeah. So this was this little project here was using that exact same technique, sort of a flat muddy texture with a more grimy one. Obviously I had the road overlaid into it, and spent a lot of time on the lighting, which obviously makes a big difference as well. But the technique is hugely powerful. It just takes a little bit of getting used to working with so many nodes. Now what I was going to demonstrate is, for Polygon, I've put together a really interesting addition to Polygon's add-on, which does a lot of this stuff. Does a lot of the it has like a mixing node built in. It brings materials in within a node group, and I was hoping to demonstrate that today because it was supposed to have been released like a couple of days ago, but there's been a delay, and I don't want to show the work in progress version. I want to wait for the release, so you just have to take my word for it. But yeah, it was by developing this technique that I realised it would be a really handy feature for the add-on to have. So yeah, very cool. I suppose that's pretty much it from today's stream. It hasn't quite gone as smoothly as I would like, but hey ho. Not quite sure on the subject for tomorrow's one. I could really use some suggestions in the comments, which I haven't been getting so far. I've been getting, even if these aren't massively popular at the streaming time, maybe my streaming time is not the best one, I'm still getting a good few hundred views on each of them a day, so at the moment I'm still leaning towards continuing with them, but I could really use some more requests, because I only have a finite amount of space in my brain, and there isn't really room for coming up with fun ideas every single day, but I will certainly do my best. But for now, stay healthy, and I will catch you next time.